My name is Mallory, and I researched hypothyroidism and diet, and I also did my study on hypothyroidism and a gluten-free or vegan diet. The hypothesis for my study was that those who follow a vegan or a gluten-free diet will have less symptoms of hypothyroidism than those who do not follow any diet at all. My research question states that this study is going to investigate the effect of specific dietary habits on hypothyroidism. A vegan diet and/or a gluten-free diet have shown to have preventative measures in the diagnosis and lower symptom discomfort in hypothyroidism. Some background information on this disorder is that it affects 4.6% of the population. It is diagnosed via a blood test, and they will see high levels of TSH, which stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, and high levels of T4, which is called thyroxine, and that is what the thyroid secretes. The thyroid impacts growth and development of the body as well as many cellular processes, and hypothyroidism is also more common in women, especially over the age of 50 and if they are Caucasian. Symptoms of this disorder are weight gain, intolerance of cold, fatigue, hair loss, goiter, and bradycardia. And ways people can manage this disorder are through dietary changes and/or the help of medication. For my literature review, I found research on gluten-free diets, vegan diets, a high-fat diet specifically in rats, and iodine intake. The research done with gluten-free diet shows us that gluten can trigger an autoimmune attack on the thyroid, which then in turn causes it to not work properly. A study done in 2012 stated that T4 needs were reduced in patients who followed a gluten-free diet who were also diagnosed with hypothyroidism. Patients grouped into a gluten-free diet were shown that improvement in their hypothyroidism symptoms decreased in 11 months, and those who were also given a gluten-free diet but stayed on their medications for the duration of the study showed improvement in just 6 months in this study. Research on vegan diets show that a vegan diet can help a patient lower their BMI, so overall weight, and this study in 2013 showed us that being overweight can cause an increase in thyrotropin stimulating hormone levels. So if you do not have a family history of hypothyroidism, this can be the cause of someone developing hypothyroidism. So the study in 2013 looked at different types of vegan diets, and their risk for developing hypothyroidism, and it concluded that someone on a lacto-ovo diet had an increased risk for hypothyroidism, or that their symptoms of hypothyroidism did not lower or diminish. They also stated that a regular vegan diet can help someone lose weight or maintain the weight that they're at, and in turn make the thyroid work properly and secrete hormones regularly again. And a lacto-ovo diet is a type of vegan diet that includes foods that come from animals such as honey, dairy products, and eggs. A high-fat diet done in rats, it was done in 2014, and it concluded that a high-fat diet specifically with lard created a dysfunctional thyroid, and they saw this in blood tests that there were decreased levels of T3 and T4, and the TSH and triglycerides in the blood were quite elevated. And after the duration of the study ended, they decided to withdraw the high-fat lard diet from the rats for 6 weeks, and no improvement was seen in any of the high-fat lard diet-induced thyroid changes. And those changes again were decreased levels of T4 and T3 and elevated levels of TSH and triglycerides. So it was a lifelong impact that will never be able to change. I also found research on iodine. The thyroid uses iodine to produce thyroid hormones, and if a patient does not consume adequate amounts of iodine, brain damage as well as hypothyroidism occurs, especially in those who are severely deficient in iodine. So when someone consumes too much iodine well over the RDA, the thyroid process becomes pretty much completely inhibited. And the study that I found in 2010 that looked at iodine and the thyroid actions show us that TSH levels rise with age, and if you already have a family history of that or are overweight, these TSH levels can become extremely abnormal and high. So this study done in 2010 looked at individuals in Denmark who were either very deficient in iodine or consumed very high levels well above the RDA of 150 micrograms of iodine. And they concluded that all subjects, no matter if they ate too much or ate too little, had thyroid antibodies in the blood and high TSH levels in the blood. And then they did a 20-year follow-up with all of these individuals and found that those who had high thyroid antibodies, many of them developed goiters in the future. So my study design is as follows. We used 300 women all over the age of 50 who were previously diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and we then collected their biochemical and anthropometric data before the study started from their primary care physician, and we put those 300 women into 3 groups, 100 in each. Group A was a gluten-free diet, Group B was a vegan diet, and Group C had no specific diet given to them. During those 3 months, patients submitted 3-day food logs and symptom journals at the end of each week by Saturday night at midnight for that 8-month period. And RDNs on the study would look at that data every week to see the overall percent eaten of macros, micros, and calories during those 3-day food logs. And a medical professional would look at these symptom journals to see how well they would decrease in severity over the 8 months. So at the end of the 8 months, anthropometric and biochemical data were then submitted by the primary care physician again and looked at by the RDN and MD when those 8 months were over. And then after the 8 months, the RDN, the medical professional, and research analysts would publish their research stating that the effects of these diets would have a positive impact on hypothyroidism patients who are women and 50 above. The expected results and interpretation of the study were that either a gluten-free diet and or vegan diet would have positive effects on those who suffer from hypothyroidism, and that in the future RDs and MDNs can help patients alleviate their symptoms better and faster with paired with medication, or they can eventually decrease the dosage of their medication. And some future research that I would like to see done that pairs with my unanswered questions are: what about the intensity of these dietary changes? And can we see more research done in men over the age of 50 who have hypothyroidism? Some strengths and limitations of my study are pictured on the screen here. The limitations were that we only used women, and the diet regulations that we gave the patients were very lackadaisical, and we're not sure how well they followed their prescribed diet. The strengths of my study were that it was human-based data instead of quantitative data, so it had more effective and influential results than that of just a numerical-based study. And the length of the study showing the duration of symptom relief was quite long. It was almost a year, so that was very, very good. And here are my references. There are more in the paper as well.